Good morning and welcome to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Remember, you can join me right here in this station every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. where I bring you, the Pennsylvania landowner, the valuable information that you need regarding natural gas development here in Pennsylvania. Okay, I'm going to do something a little different here today to start the show. It's my mother's birthday. So I want to do a little something for my mother who's going to be listening to the show. Something really neat happened. So in order to kind of get into this, I want to get a little background. Again, some personal stuff here to start the show. So, okay, just an update on my personal life. My wife and I have two children, one age 21, the other one 19. Our 21-year-old son, both boys. Our 21-year-old son is right now studying for his law school entrance exams. We're pretty excited about that. And then the other one is just starting his freshman year down at Georgetown in Washington, D.C. Very, of course, excited and proud of both of the boys. So what's funny is we only have the two children, and so we're in that whole empty nest phase, which has a lot of really neat things to it, but at the same time, my wife is, I think often is the case, the wives tend to struggle a little bit more maybe than some of the guys, especially when you have two boys. So what I found in my house is my wife has already cleaned the house very well, as she always does, and she's gone through the boys' rooms, and they're totally immaculate. So the other morning, sitting there having my coffee, and my wife comes out, and she is holding this book. It's actually a collection of Mark Twain books, all contained in one book. And so she's holding that book, which I haven't seen in probably about 20-some years. So she's holding the book, and she's also holding a piece of paper. And she says, well, in my cleaning, Doug, look what I found. So I didn't remember what it was, but then when I saw it, I did. And so let me first say that this collection of Mark Twain books, how this came about, when I graduated, or after, not when I graduated, but after my first year of law school, I'd done more reading in that first year of law school than I had probably done in my life combined. And so I said, you know what, Doug, it's not generally your personality, but let's stay on top of this. You're on a roll. You're doing a lot of reading. Let's make this a productive summer. Let's do some reading over the summer, something you wouldn't do. So I went to a bookstore. I looked around a bunch of different books, and I decided, you know what? I always wanted to read this Mark Twain collections, so let me try to do this. So I bought this, and I was pretty ambitious. So I bought myself a collection of Mark Twain books in one big book. So this book had a gold leaf trim. It was real fancy. I spent more money, I'm sure, than I should have at the time. But I was really committed. I said, I'm going to do this. So that's what I did. I read Mark Twain, I read Tom Sawyer, I read Huck Finn, read some of the other stories, but I have to be honest, I didn't make it through everything. But it was a lot of reading. So I did a lot of reading. But one of the things back then is my mother had written me something once. And we had this old typewriter that we got, I think, from my grandfather. And it's just one of those things when you're a kid, for some reason, maybe we were at my grandparents', I think, and it was there. They weren't using it. They didn't need it. It was an old relic manual typewriter. So my grandfather says, hey, Doug, you can have this typewriter. So take it home, and had it at the house. So we were playing around with it. So one night after myself and my sister had gone to bed, my mother had typed me up a little message. And lo and behold, that message, or that paper, was what my wife was holding when she came out with the Mark Twain book to say, hey, look what I found in this book while I'm doing my cleaning. So for my mother, I'm holding this paper here now. So for my mother, I want to read this letter to you, and she's listening here today. So let me read this letter to my mother. So this is the letter that was found in my book. Doug, to the sweetest little boy I know. Whoops, I better change that to the finest young man I know. It's hard for me to realize that you are growing up. Even though I see you getting taller, I still think of you as my little boy. I know that sometimes you get angry with me. Mom, I'm sorry about that. But always remember that I want the best for you. I want everyone to know what a sweet kid you are. So remember your manners and be polite to grown-ups. My prayers are always for your health and happiness. I ask God to guide you through your teenage years. I know that you will grow into a fine man that anyone would be proud to have for a son. I hope that you will take any disappointments that come your way and become a better man for having faced them. Take it on the chin, kid. I love you very much, and I'm very proud of how well you do in school. Keep up the good work. And there are several exclamation points there. And this is some of my favorite part here, the ending. And thank you, Mom. I hope your future includes the kind of job you will be happy doing, and I know you will do it well. I love you very much. Claudia Clark, March 24, 1984. So 32 years ago, that's the letter. And Mom, I just want to say I love you. Happy birthday. And thank you. Thank you for everything. All right. So, okay. So as I found this letter, again, I haven't seen it in many years, 20 plus years. So I found this letter, and one of the things, well, a lot of things meant a lot to me, but in seeing the last line, which I stressed about, hoping my future includes the kind of job that I would be happy doing. And so I wondered about that. I thought about that as I sat there and drank my coffee and read the letter over and over. And I said, you know what? How incredibly blessed and fortunate that I am that somehow the job found me, that I get to do what I get to do, that I get to help, and I can't say that enough, help people, help educate people, help inform people, help level a playing field that's far too often, if not always, slanted against the individual, against the landowner, against the farmer, against the property owner. And I look back at my career, and I spent my whole legal career, 20 plus years now, fighting for the little guy. When I first got out of school, my first job was at an insurance defense firm. Spent about 18 months there. It was probably the one of the worst times of my life. Really didn't like the job at all, and knew I had to get out of there. So then I went and I worked as a public defender, fighting for the little guy. And I spent many, many years working as a public defender, and then also doing federal appointment work, where, again, spending my time and career fighting for the little guy, fighting to try to even this playing field that far too often is, again, heavily slanted against the individual. So then about 2007 is when it really started, where because of the oil and gas, or because of the property in my wife's family primarily, we were getting offers, and there was a lot going on with the oil and gas activity, and I won't go through everything, but that was the beginning of my oil and gas work, which has evolved to the point where it is today, where it's all that I do is represent landowners in oil and gas related matters. Been doing that for some time. Been doing the radio show, as I say all the time, since August of 2010. So we've hit over 6 years of doing the radio show, and that's a privilege too. It's a privilege to be able to speak to people, to bring people information, to try again to get information out to landowners that you need, to try to make sure that you're not taking advantage of, that your property is protected, and that you're protected, not only just for you, not only just for your children. you and your children, but for also your grandchildren beyond. That's what we try to do here. And just to continue on this for a moment and say, how lucky I am. My father is a retired steel worker. Started working at the steel mill when he was 18 years old. And he's now he's retired, and I would say retired from the mill, and works part-time, or he'll probably tell you full-time, at our small family farm. But I remember, the greatest days as a kid growing up, adjacent to the farm and spending my whole childhood on the farm, doing all the things that a kid on the farm does, good and bad. But, some of my favorite times ever was drinking grape, we call it grape pop, grape soda pop on the porch with my grandma and my grandfather at the end of the days, when all the work wound down, 7, 8 o'clock in a summer evening, and sitting around talking. Some of the greatest times of my life, and certainly as a child, but of my whole life. Just an incredible time. And when we talk about the job and how much I love what I do, I see in so many of my clients, I see my parents, I see my father, I see my grandparents, who my grandfather also was a retired steel worker and farmed full time. So I see them in my clients. I see those in the Pennsylvania landowners who, aren't my clients, who are hopefully out there listening, that I'm hopefully bringing you good information that's helping you. Whether we ever talk, whether I ever represent you, I hope you're getting good information, and I hope it's useful for you, and I hope you use it to the best benefit you possibly can. So it's such a privilege and an honor, really, and I mean this with everything I say. It's such an honor to be able to have a job where I represent people like my grandparents, like my parents, like my parents' friends and my grandparents' friends, like all the people at St. Paul's Church, that I get to help those people. And I get to work for those people. I get to work for you and talk about a job that I, Doug Clark, love doing. It is this job. I get very stressed many times, but I'll tell you, I wouldn't change anything. I am so appreciative and so thankful for having the opportunity to represent Pennsylvania landowners. It has been amazing, and I'm going to continue to do it as long as you'll have me. But it's just an amazing thing. So, Mom, when you say in your letter, I hope your future includes the kind of job that you'll be happy doing, and I know you'll do it well. I can tell you this. I am certainly very, very happy in what I do, and I would like to think that I do it well. So when I say, as I say all the time, that I do not, have not, and will not represent oil and gas companies, well, it's because I love what I do. I love representing Pennsylvania landowners. I love to help Pennsylvania landowners, and I love to work to even the field, for you. And it's been an honor. It's been a privilege, and I want to thank everybody. I want to thank all my past clients. I want to thank all my current clients for giving me this opportunity. And most of all, Mom, I want to thank you and wish you a wonderful and incredibly happy birthday. I love you, Mom. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm, and I'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Again, I'm here with you on this station every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. So I just want to finish up and say thank you, guys. I appreciate that last segment there. It meant a lot to me, and I'm optimistic that it meant a lot to my mother as well. So, okay, we're going to kind of go back into our standard intro here and just say, again, you're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark at the Clark Law Firm. I'm located at 1563 Main Street in Peckville, Pennsylvania, but know that I have clients and have represented clients all across Pennsylvania in gas-producing areas, in gas or areas that companies are interested in gas. and have had clients who reside in Texas, California, Hawaii, Alaska, and so on and so on. So please don't let distance discourage you. If you say, hey, I'm in the southwestern corner of the state, we just finished a great deal down, I believe it's in Washington County, just finished a very good, nice, I think it was a very good deal for a landowner. I've had many clients, Washington County, Allegheny, Westmoreland, Armstrong, where I'm originally from, all of those, Green, all across that western part of the state. Of course, Tioga County, Lycoming, you name it, anywhere, Bradford, Susquehanna, on and on and on, Wyoming, go on and on. So anyway, as you know, and as I've talked about in that first segment, I represent Pennsylvania landowners and oil and gas right owners. I do not, have not, and will not ever represent oil and gas companies. I represent landowners for many things, anything related to oil and gas development, including but not limited to gas lease negotiations, pipeline, waterline agreements, royalty and royalty deduction issues. I want to say again, especially northeastern Pennsylvania landowners, if the company paying you royalties has recently notified you, I mean, recently, I don't care if it was a week ago or within the last year or whenever, but they were not previously taking deductions for post-production costs such as pipeline gathering and transportation and compression fees, and now they are. And now they're even going back and saying we're going to recoup money we paid you because we should have been taking deductions, but we haven't. If you are now receiving deductions and having deductions taken from your royalty checks when you weren't before, I am very interested in hearing from you. Please call the office 570-307-0702. 570-307-0702. I know this has happened. I have one case already where I know it's happened, where I have documentation. Very interested in this issue, so please feel free. Call anytime, 570-307-0702. If you had deductions now that are being taken that weren't being taken before, I would love to hear from you. Okay, also, I've been doing more with estate planning for clients that are starting to receive royalties or on the verge of receiving royalties. Unitization issues. Are you properly unitized? Did the company unitize you correctly? Just did a major demand letter this past week out to a company which we're pretty confident the company has breached the person's lease and has not properly unitized them. Those situations can be extremely impactful for you, the landowner. We're talking major impact, depending upon your acreage, literally hundreds of thousands and potentially more dollars. We need to make sure these companies aren't breaching your lease, your pipeline agreement. Those are your rights. Never be afraid, discouraged, or deterred from asserting and protecting your rights, because the company is not going to be. They're not going to have any hesitation. I assure you. And those people who have seen the heavy hand of a company when the company says, hey, we have these rights. You signed a lease. You signed this. You signed that. We're going to do what we want. Landowner says, well, wait. That's not what you told me. That's not what the landman told me. The landowner says, or the company says, well, you signed the agreement. Here it is. So when you have rights, this isn't about being litigious, being out there trying to sue companies. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about standing up for your rights. If ultimately that's what's required, then ultimately that's what's required. But you have to, and usually that's not what is required, but you have to stand up. You have to protect your rights. Also, I do roadway agreements. Please, guys, please, if you're presented with a roadway agreement, a road right-of-way agreement, there's probably a reason that they're asking you to sign this, because they don't have rights otherwise. They can't put it in unless you sign, or they have rights to do something, but it's limited, and they want more rights than they already have. I can't say it enough, and I hope it comes across because it can get confusing. But you need to understand as a landowner what limitations the company has under the existing lease, existing right-of-way agreement, what limitations they have for potential eminent domain and condemnation. Sadly, I still regularly talk to landowners who believe that in most of these cases, or in their case, they might as well sign what's presented to them with regard to a pipeline agreement because the company's going to get eminent domain anyway. Eminent domain condemnation is very, very, very rare. If it's that type of case, it's very easy to identify. I've represented many landowners in those cases and many, many landowners in non-eminent domain and condemnation cases. But you need to know that unless you're talking Transco, Atlantic Sunrise, Sunoco, these big interstate pipelines, the vast, vast, vast majority, 99, 98, 90 plus, we'll just say, let's say high 90s, other than those that I mentioned, Atlantic Sunrise, Transco, these big interstate pipelines, do not have eminent domain and can't get eminent domain. So you have to understand your rights. You have to understand your rights. I am Attorney Doug Clark. You're listening to All Things Marcellus. You can join me right here on this station every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. And I'm going to focus yet again on another service that we do and that I do all the time. And I say this because it's just time and time again, it's proven to be an incredible resource. And that's not me saying it's clients post the phone call where I do reviews and consultations, usually limited to an hour to 2 hours, where you send me in whatever document the company is asking that you sign. I review everything. I look at all the background information that I need. And then we either have an in-office conference, which everyone is always welcome to do, or we do a telephone conference. And I do telephone conferences all the time with people all across the state. And again, people in the past across the country and even in other countries. Just this past week, I had a big conference call where if you have siblings spread out across the state or across the country even, we do a call-in number. We all get on the line, go over everything, explain all my thoughts, suggestions, recommendations, answer your questions. And it's just proven time and time again, whether it be a gas lease, pipeline agreement, surface agreement, roadway agreement, amendment, modification of your gas lease, or other agreement. These calls, these conferences, in-person or telephone calls, have proven to be extremely valuable. So I really encourage you, if you're presented with anything and you don't want to go diving into the deep depths of getting an attorney, hey, we'll do a review, consultation, explain everything, and then you can decide, how do you want to go forward? Maybe you decide, hey, look, I'm going to go ahead and just sign this document. Maybe you decide, whoa, I'm glad I talked to this guy because now I know I don't need to do this. And in fact, I don't want to. So I'm going to go ahead and politely decline this offer. Or maybe you say, wow, I didn't know I had this leverage. I didn't realize that I could say no or negotiate. I'm not really crazy about a pipeline on my property, a roadway, a surface site, or anything like that. So you know what? I'm going to say no, or I'm going to submit a compensation demand. In other words, I'm going to tell them how much money I want. If you want to do this on my property, here's my price. If you don't like my price, that's fine. It's my property, and this is what I would require to do this on my property. If you don't want to pay that price, then you can, look, everything is fine. Find another property. If you can't find another property to do what you want to do, then you come back to me and we'll talk about my price again. But I know that that's my position. That's my leverage. I don't have to agree. I can negotiate, and I'm going to put the price that it's going to take me. What would it take me to agree to this? And when I think of the price that it would take me, how much money would it take me to agree to a pipeline? How much money would it take me to agree to a roadway, a surface site, a meter site, a storage area? What would it take me to agree for my property? I can tell you this. What it took my neighbor the guy down the road, the guy who lives in Florida who doesn't reside on the property, what it costs or what would it take them to agree is completely, totally, completely and totally irrelevant to me. I just don't care. I respect them. I have no problem with that. Whatever their number is, their numbers are. But for me, for my property, here's what it'll take for me. So, company, I don't care. Respectfully, I'm not going to holler at you. I don't care that you're paying people. I have a hard time saying it. That you're paying people $10 a foot for pipeline. I don't care because that's not what it's going to do for me. I don't care if the last 2,000 people in a row agreed to $10 a foot for whatever reason. I'm not going to for me. Here's what it's going to take me. So with my last client who's getting ready to sign at $130 a foot, and not everybody gets that. But this person said, for me to do this, I need $130 a foot for this pipeline. $130. And company says, you're nuts, you're crazy. We're paying people $30. Well, that's fine. You know what you're paying Mr. X, what you're paying my neighbor, what you're paying the farmer down the road, what you're paying the politician. I don't care. And again, I'm not disrespectful. I don't care. What I care is on this particular property that I own, this is what it'll take. And if you don't want to pay that price, hey, there's no hard feelings. I have the right to say no, and you have the right to not pay me what I demand. That's okay. That's the way the world works. So I'm not going to feel guilty, and I'm not going to care that other people signed at $10, $15, whatever that price may be. That doesn't matter to me. If other people sign bad agreements, that means nothing to me. Because somebody else signed a terrible agreement, because the company has been able to get all these people to sign bad agreements for very low compensation, doesn't matter to me. That doesn't mean that I am tied to that agreement. The old thing, well, like every parent ever always said, if they all jump off the bridge, are you going to jump off the bridge? Well, unfortunately, we got landowners jumping off of bridges following other people. So what I mean by that is just because the last 10 guys signed at $10 a foot or $15 or $16 a foot and jumped off the bridge, I'm not doing that. It's okay. I'm not going to do that. Maybe you want to do it. Hey, that's fine too. As I say all the time, as long as you're informed, as long as you're educated, as long as you know your leverage and know your options, you will make the right decision. And that very well may be to sign agreements. I am not on the show. I don't do this show to say, don't sign, never sign. I've represented hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who've signed agreements with 50 plus, 60 plus companies, easily more than that. I haven't counted out the total, but I know I've negotiated, worked on, consulted with landowners and at least 60 pipeline right-of-way agreements. Pipeline right-of-way, 60 different. So it gives you an idea, as I say all the time, what's out there. So I represent people who sign agreements. That's what we do. I negotiate and sign agreements. Represent people that sometimes don't sign agreements. Why? Because the agreement isn't right for them. Because they say, why in the world would I sign this agreement now? It just doesn't make sense. It's not a good deal. So they elect not to sign. Makes sense, doesn't it? Don't sign a bad deal. Wait. If that's right for you. Remember, not specific advice for anyone in any specific situation. The specific advice is get specific advice. Get specific advice. And I'll just we'll go commercial a second. You can always look. Again, these reviews and consultations have proven to be so valuable. So think about it. Pick up the phone, but think about it. Look, you need to be happy. You need to be satisfied. You need to be comfortable with who's representing you. Attorney.com. Check out pipelineattorney.com. Get information. So whether you call us, you don't call us, get information. You can call us 570-307-0702. 570-307-0702. You're listening to Attorney Doug Clark. This is All Things Marcellus. We're here with you every Sunday from 8 to 9 on this station, and I'll be right back after this super important message. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm, here with you every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. on this station. So, okay, I'm going to switch gears again here, and, I've been talking about this some, but as I say, these things come up during the week. And I make my notes, and come the morning of the show, I look down, I say, okay, what do I want to talk about? And what I want to talk about, and unfortunately I know, look, this is again, but it's back to, as I say, I don't care if we're talking about a pipeline agreement, we're talking about a gas lease, we're talking about a surface agreement, we're talking about anything. It's the same type of ideas and principles that apply, meaning that you have to watch out because you got to be informed, and we don't want to see you taken advantage of. So I talk a lot about this down gas price market, the lack of drilling by companies across Pennsylvania has created an incredible amount, understandably, of frustration for Pennsylvania landowners and oil and gas right owners. Very frustrated on the heels of being told that they were going to be millionaires in the past when people were sitting at their table explaining how much money they were going to make. They just needed to sign this piece of paper. Think about that a little bit, guys. We got to be careful. And we look around and we don't see in our communities and all over all of these millionaires riding around, going to church. We don't see a lot of these millionaires. So what's going on? So people are frustrated, understandably so. They were sold some goods, and those those beans, those magic beans haven't quite turned out like we thought. However, maybe these magic beans will never contain the magic that we were told, but maybe we need to be a little more patient. Maybe we need to be patient because we have the industry, we have the market, we have conditions that have changed from 5 years ago. When I first started representing people, first started getting into this, gas was going $10, $12, $14 per MCF. Recently, I had a landowner check that the gas was sold at 57 cents per MCF. I've said before, I have clients. We know of multiple people in Pennsylvania who have deductions taken from their royalty checks, and those deductions, the costs of transportation and gathering and compression, those costs that are deducted from the landowner's royalties are meeting or exceeding the actual royalty payment. So in other words, if your royalty payment in the given month was going to be $1,000, there are landowners who are being told by the company that, hey, your post-production fees that we charge you, these deductions, are $1,000 or more, so therefore you get no royalty. Your gas is being sold, but you're not getting royalty because the deductions exceed the royalty payment. It's almost unbelievable. It's hard to believe that that's occurring, but I promise you it is. So, you need to fight. We need to negotiate to eliminate or reduce these deductions. We need to do that. But again, you may not be able to, but we need to make those arguments. We need to fight because sometimes you can. Sometimes maybe you can't, but sometimes you can. And remember, while I'm on this subject, you're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Remember, when you're given a lease for 12.5% royalty, remember, please remember, you cannot do worse. That is called the minimum royalty under what's called the Guaranteed Minimum Royalty Act. One thing that our legislature has given us, but from many moons ago, was a guaranteed minimum royalty of 12.5% or 1/8. That's guaranteed. Guys, you cannot, no matter what, I promise you this, you can't do worse. Then again, like I taught, I think last week, throw in deductions. Jeez, literally, you can't do worse. So when you're offered 12.5%, you can't do worse than that in royalty percentage. When you're offered 12.5% with full deductions, again, you literally cannot possibly do worse than that. Also, I have a new client offer 3-year lease. Another new client this past week, 5-year lease. 5 years. 5 years are pretty much the standard. So when you're offered a 10-year lease, please be careful. Look around. See what's going on. Companies aren't drilling. You got the lowest royalty percentage, 12.5, 10-year lease, full deductions. Why sign, and this isn't specific advice, but why sign a 10-year lease? Why sign a 10-year lease under any circumstances? Why sign a 10-year lease whenever we're in a very, very down market? What happens in 5 years if the MCF price goes back to $10 per MCF? Probably. Can't guarantee. You may see better lease offers. So you have to ask yourselves these questions. So again, these companies, they're not stupid. We got to know better. We got to know. They're not stupid. So I say, all right, Doug Clark's out there saying on the radio, oh, you can't do worse than 12.5%. Well, that's darn well true. No one can dispute that. So what do we do? Let's get our minds together. What do we do? Well, let's do better than the guaranteed minimum royalty, because people can ask us at the kitchen table, well, I can't do worse than that, can I? So what do we do? How do we do this? How do we address this? I know. Let's offer them 13.5%. Let's give them an extra percent, 13.5%. So no longer can we say that's the guaranteed minimum royalty, 13.5%. So you've made 1% higher. But are you going to sign a 10-year lease? Again, you got to ask yourself these questions. This isn't advice. You got to ask these questions. Yeah, look at your situation. You can never look at anything just to say, okay, there's a standard rule for everybody. You can't do that. But what you can do is say, no matter what your offer is, I don't care if you're offered 20%. You have to ask yourself, hey, do I want this lease at 20%? Do I want it at 13.5%? Do I want it at 12.5%? I mean, most companies across Pennsylvania, by far most, I don't even know of other companies offering lower than 15% in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania on a regular basis. I don't see it. I got offers now above 15% from multiple clients at this very moment. There's only one company, and we all know who they are. There's only one company that I see regularly offering below 15%. only one. And they're also offering 10-year leases. Oh, and by the way, don't ask for anything about deductions, because that's not going to happen. We're going to fully take deductions. So these leases, another thing to know, these leases switch hands fairly regularly, as we've seen time and time again. And you don't know what's going to happen in the future. But maybe you sign a lease with deductions, and maybe in the future you find yourself, and again, this is just informationally, why you need to work on this, why you need to try to fight these issues, because maybe you may find that your gas is being produced, and at the end of the day, after deductions, there are people getting $0 in royalties, or there's people getting hardly any royalties. Once again, I'm not telling you that you can negotiate and get and eliminate having deductions taken, but gosh, we need to try. And I say this, and I'll continue to say it. We'll say pipelines, we'll say gas leases. If everybody with pipeline agreements, if everybody stops signing garbage agreements at $5, $10, $15 per foot for unlimited lines without location, horrific, in my opinion, who do agreements all the time, horrific agreements. If we stop signing those, the market will rise, and everybody who signs agreements will do better. Just like in Susquehanna County when the price was around $15, and that's what everybody was signing at for years, talking about 2010, 9, 10, 11, those type of ranges, where that was the rate then. Then all of a sudden, boom, $25, $30 becomes the rate. Then you start seeing $60 agreements being regularly offered out there at times. So what does that mean? Well, what it means is people stopped signing. People got wise. Or all the people that would sign bad agreements signed them. So now what do you got to do, company? Well, they're not going to leave the gas in the ground. They're going to sign better agreements with the landowners. So as soon as we get everybody lifted up, the better it's going to be for everybody. They're not going to leave the gas in the ground, guys. They're not. So understand, know what the market is, what it could be, and what you're signing off on. And if you're sitting there and you're considering a pipeline agreement, $10, oh gosh, I'm sorry, $10, $15 a foot. If you're out there considering that, think about who's offering you that. Think about what you were told was going to happen when you signed a document the last time. Think about what you were told. Think about it and ask yourself, what I was told, did that happen? Did the company do what I was told they were going to do? And if the answer is yes, then you say, boy, I got a lot of faith in this company. Maybe that's going to be something that leads you to sign. But I'm going to tell you, I don't know how many people are going to answer that question yes. That, oh, yeah, everything happened the way I was told it was going to happen. So why, if your answer to that question is no, let's ask another question. Okay, number one, did the company do what I was told they were going to do? Have I received royalties? Have the things that I were promised or told were going to happen, have they occurred? And when I signed my first agreement, say your gas lease, if the answer to that is no, and now I'm approached to sign a pipeline right-of-way agreement, what makes me think that now what I'm being told is going to happen? What makes me think that? And then when I'm told, well, we got to get these pipelines in the ground, we got to get your royalties. Well, you told me you were going to get me royalties before, perhaps, and that hasn't happened. So what makes me think that? And, oh, yeah, we're going to do this next year. But, oh, yeah, we don't have any limitations in our agreement or any restrictions in our agreement. We can do whatever we want. We can do it 5 years from now. We can maybe not do it at all. So we got to ask these questions. We got to get better. We got to get more informed, and we have to understand. We have to be more informed, and we can't repeat the mistakes that we've made, and we can't repeat the mistakes that other people made that we can learn from. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I'm here with you every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. on this station, and I will be right back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I'm here with you every week at this time on this station to bring you, the landowner, the information that you need regarding natural gas development here in Pennsylvania. And if you missed any of today's show, or you've missed any shows over the last several years, been doing the show since 2010, weekly show since 2010, go check out pagasleaseattorney.com. Check out pipelineattorney.com. Again, use it as an informational resource. Go check it out whether you need representation or not, but you can go back, you can listen to prior shows. We have hours and hours of shows available on the website. This show here will be up Monday morning. You can go check it out. You missed any of today's show, you can go check it out Monday. If you can't join us during on the weekend, go to the website. We put the shows up there, and we index them, make them available. So very good resource, no matter what you're interested in, pipelines, roadways, you name it, estate planning, unitization issues, royalty deduction issues, go check out the websites. Again, real quick, if a company was paying you royalties and has recently, over the last year or whatever, has started taking deductions for post-production costs that they weren't taking before, and may have told you, we're going to come back to you and we want the money we paid you, we want a bunch of it back because we shouldn't have paid it to you, we were able to deduct it and we didn't, so now we're not going to send you a royalty check until we recoup all the money that we paid you that we feel that we could have kept. If you're in that situation, company has just started taking deductions within the last year, wasn't before, 570, give me a call. Very interested to hear from you. 570-307-0702. 570-307-0702. We need to protect you guys. We need to stop what we see as breaches of oil and gas leases. And if you're entering into or you're considering entering into an oil and gas lease, you better darn well talk to somebody that's going to explain the lease to you from your perspective, who's going to explain the royalty provision to you from your perspective, what you need to know. Not when I see these royalty provisions that say royalties without deductions, and then I read the language and I just shake my head because that's not what it means. It's just not what it means. So you have to get assistance for somebody who's working for you, who knows these issues, who can help and educate you. Whether it's me or somebody else, please get somebody. You cannot rely on the landman who, why can't you? Why? Seems like a nice guy, seems like a nice lady. Why? I'm not saying they aren't nice. They got a job to do. We understand that. That's okay. They have a job to do. We understand and we respect that. But we're also smart too. And we know you have a job to do. And we know what? We know you're a landman. We know you work for the gas and pipeline company. We know you're not working for us, which is okay. That's your job. So we're going to get our own opinion. We're going to get somebody working for us who's going to educate us. So I talked about the other day when a landowner sends me a lease and says, oh, I'm all excited. I just want you to look at this. I got a no surface use lease. The company can't go on the surface of my property. And they send it to me and we do a review and consultation. Excellent example of what reviews and consultations can show up, what we can discover. I say, I see how this heading of your addendum, you got one addendum. It says, heading, no surface use, can't use the surface. And then underneath it says, can't use the surface. But if we propose something on your surface, we have to get your approval, but you can't unreasonably withhold your approval. Well, what in the world does that mean? Here's what it means. Landowner signs this lease because she was told, this is a no surface lease, can't touch my property. 5 years down the road, whenever, 5, 10, signed a 10-year lease, 10 years down the road, all of a sudden you get a knock on the door, we want to put a well pad on your property. Oh, well, sorry, company. I signed a lease. You can't go on the surface of my property. So, sorry, you're going to have to go on somebody else's property, and you can drill underneath me, but you can't go on my surface. Company says, well, no, your lease says that we have to get your consent, but you cannot be unreasonable and deny or withhold your consent. And we think you're being unreasonable. We're going to put a pad here. We're going to put a road here. We're going to put a pipe here. We're going to put surface structures here. And you may say no and not approve or not agree or give us your consent, but we feel you're being unreasonable and we feel we have the right to do it, and we're going to go ahead and do it. And if you don't like us, you can sue us, you can file for an injunction, you can do whatever you want to do, but your lease allows us to do this, and since you're being unreasonable, we're going to go ahead and do it. Well, that's a far cry from the no surface lease agreement that landowner thought that they were offered. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. So, okay, that's just one little example. There's so many others. I mean, these reviews and consultations, that's just this easy, simple example. But many times, landowner says, well, I'm going to have royalties without deductions. Every landowner, 95 out of, well, even higher than that, almost every landowner that I speak with has some idea about royalties, royalty calculation, but they don't have a complete idea. That we need to educate you and explain this process. And look, it's just because you haven't had that experience, or that the information you're getting from is from the landman who works for the company, from a neighbor, from people at the gas station, people at the church, at the diner. You need to get good legal advice. You need to understand these things. You have to. You just have to. So what I find many times is landowners who call us, and this happened many times over the years, and say, what the heck, I just got my royalty check. There's deductions being taken. I was told there was not deductions that were going to be taken. Then we look at the language and say, unfortunately, it's clear. The deductions are allowed to be taken. So I'm not sure. I wish I would have talked to you a while ago. I can't tell you how many times. I hate to ever say that. I hate saying that to people. but to say, boy, I wish I would have talked to you some time ago. If you have a dispute with the company, call a lawyer right away. There are time limits to bring actions or to fight these. So where a company may be willing to resolve an issue, if you wait too long, they say, waited too long. We don't need to do anything. See you later. That's how it goes. That's the real world. So we have to get good information, and we can't be lazy. We got to go out there and get it. Again, you're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. You can always call us 570-307-0702. Have not, do not, and will not represent oil and gas companies. No way, no how. So, okay, I'm so sorry to get to this so late here. Today, in particular for one landowner that I spoke with, or husband and wife that I spoke with this week. I want to just quickly, and I'm going to talk about this other times. I've said it many, many times. Buying and selling oil and gas rights. Sorry, if you're considering selling your oil and gas rights, stop now. Call 570-307-0702. Let's talk about it. Let's explore why you're going to do it. Let's explore the price. Here's a recent scenario. Landowner calls, wants to sell, is in a really bad financial situation, needs to sell some of the oil and gas rights. Has a letter in the mail offering $5,000 per acre for the oil and gas rights. I say, hey, let me see if I can get you some more money. Let's look around. So we follow up with the company that sent the letter for $5,000. Well, many times you follow up and you find, we're not offering $5,000. We'll give you $4,000. We'll give you $4,500, maybe $3,000. Well, in this case, the company said, we changed our mind. We're not offering anything. So then we go out and I go out and I ask several different companies that I'm familiar with to buy gas rights. And it's hilarious. I get all these, we get back some, we'll call them bids or offers. And there's a fairly decent discrepancy between these offers. So think about that. You get an offer, say you get a letter for $5,000. First off, you got to try to make sure you're going to get that. Then you got to make sure it's a fair agreement. Then you got to make sure that that's the most you can get. But there are many companies out there making these offers. So in this case, I had one offer that was submitted that was literally just about 50% lower than the other offer. Or actually, I should say 100%. So one offer was virtually double another offer. So if you're a landowner, I'll give you a hypothetical. Say you have an offer from a company of $2,000. Then you reach out, you communicate with some other companies. Well, let me back up. Let's say you say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and sign that. And so say you signed it for $2,000, but your neighbor gets the same letter. He or she says, I'm going to look around. I'm going to try to make sure that there's no better offers out there. And in doing that, gets an offer for $4,000. So if they have 100 acres, one offer would be for $200,000. The other offer, $400,000. So sometimes these aren't letters. Guys come out to your property. They come out, they say, we want to buy your gas rights. You better darn well be exploring, if you're going to sell your gas rights, what other opportunities are out there. Because maybe this guy is offering you $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 an acre sitting in front of you. But maybe another company will literally offer you double that amount. You have to maximize this. You can't just simply say, this is a nice guy. I'm going to go ahead and sell my gas rights. You have to investigate. You have to maximize, and you have to get the best possible agreement. Unfortunately, I'm short on time, so I'm going to talk about this more in the future. But again, if everybody considering selling your oil and gas rights, it is a down market, really bad time. But if you're considering doing it, call 570-307-0702. Let's make sure you're protected. Let's make sure you're going to get the most amount of money, and let's make sure you get a fair agreement, because people are being taken advantage of. Okay, I'm going to leave you again. Two things. Number one, stop signing bad agreements. Please stop signing bad agreements. Get advice. Stop signing bad agreements. Put the pen down. Please stop signing bad agreements. Number two, remember, the landman works for the company, not you, the land owner. All right, that's it for the day. Again, Mom, I love you. Happy birthday. Everyone else, have a wonderful, fantastic week.